again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Forum 13. I'm your host, Mike Robinson. If you've never had the opportunity to visit the Burpee Museum of Natural History on North Main Street in Rockford, you're going to want to get down here over the summer. Beginning on May 1st, that's Tuesday, there'll be a reptile exhibit opening at the museum, and it'll be continuing through the month of August. And it's quite an extensive exhibit, and it's all courtesy of Dennis Mcfall, who is a Loves Park resident, has been collecting reptiles, snakes, lizards for some time. Dennis, first of all, what got you involved in collecting reptiles?
Well, since I was 5 years old, I've always been interested in them. They were unique. They weren't like mammals and birds. Usually they hid. So they were a challenge to find. I enjoyed that. They were also pretty easy to keep in captivity. They're not super expensive. When I was a kid, I'd keep things just over the summer and then let them go. I could catch crickets and earthworms to feed them so that they didn't cost me a lot of money. The mammals and birds, this cost too much to feed. When it comes to this exhibit, what we're trying to do is create interest in the Rockford area of reptiles and amphibians, so that when people see snakes in their backyard, they'll say, all right, this is just another member of the environment. I don't want to destroy it because it's not going to harm me, especially in Winnebago County. We don't have any poison snakes here.
When did your hobby, I guess it started out as such, turn into such a commitment?
About 5 years ago, I decided that my job at the factory was not as rewarding as I wanted it to be. So I decided that I'd go back to my childhood, and I definitely have done that, and start in with the animals again, go in a little bit more seriously with the intent of educating the public, and hopefully with educating the public we can preserve the animals better. I have this fear that 20 years from now I won't be able to see a frog or a snake or any wild animal in the parks, so I'm trying to do my part to prevent that from happening.
What is the major misnomer that most of us have about reptiles and snakes, that most of them are poisonous or dangerous?
That's the main thing, that people think that all snakes are poisonous. That's not true. About 90% of the world's snakes are non-poisonous. In Winnebago County, there are no poisonous snakes. The one that comes closest is the timber rattlesnake. They come up the Mississippi River, but we just don't have the habitat for the poisonous snakes. Timber rattlers need limestone bluffs. We just don't have those here.
Okay, but we can probably best explain about the snakes and reptiles if we take a look at them up close and personal. So why don't we take a walk over and we'll take a look at some of the displays.
This is a canebrake rattlesnake. It's a southern form of the timber rattler, which lives in Illinois. I'm going to move him out of the way here. I have special tools here so I don't get bit, because a hospital stay is not on my agenda. He's not a large individual, but even small ones can be dangerous because the venom acts so quickly. And this is all steel construction, and it's all locked, double screens, so that it's safe for the people that are coming through here.
Now, which area of the country is this particular snake indigenous to?
They follow the Mississippi River because of the large limestone bluffs, but they mostly live south of the central part of Illinois. You get on the Shawnee National Forests are pretty common down there because that's ideal habitat for them. It's undeveloped, and there's a lot of limestone bluffs.
Now, does this particular snake have any markings that would have it mistaken for any other kind of snake?
Well, the fox snake of this county and the hognose snake of this county and the eastern milk snake that lives here look similar. They have the blotchy patterns. But if you look closely, this thing's got a real wide head compared to its body, and it also has the rattle. Fox snakes, milk snakes, and the hognose snake, none of those have rattles, and they have a much thinner head.
Now, what would make it use its rattle? Because even when you disturbed it, it didn't seem to be shaking.
Well, the timber rattlers aren't a real dangerous snake because they're not very aggressive. The next animal we're going to look at is quite aggressive, and the larger ones especially are extremely dangerous, the eastern diamondback. They are riled easily, and the more mad a snake is when they go to bite you, the more venom they're going to inject.
Okay. Let's move on.
Let's move on to the next display then. I'll bring you on down here. Now, this one is what snake now?
This is the eastern diamondback. They get to 6 or 7 feet long. This one lives in the southeastern United States, mostly in the pine woods of the deep south. They're a particularly dangerous snake, once again, because they're so aggressive. This is just a small specimen, but you can see that he does like to quarrel and rattle. He's much more easily disturbed than the timber rattler is next door.
Now, if I were to move a little bit closer to the display or to the cage, he'd begin rattling more aggressively, correct?
He should. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's give it just one try. You want to just get a shot of this?
You see, he stands his ground. He holds still. That's another thing about him. I mean, they don't like to hightail it very easily.
Now, despite the fact that there was glass separating us, if now I'm less than a foot away with my hand to him, how close would one have to get in order for him to strike?
They usually can strike about a third of their body. They can't jump or anything like that. They can't jump the full size of their body, but you do want to stay at least a third of the body size away. This one's about 18 inches long, so you could probably bite about 6 inches away.
Okay, now we talked about the last snake we talked about in this one, and you talked about the venom, the last snake not acting quite quickly. How quick does the venom course through the body, or does it depend on where you're bit?
Depends on where you're bit, how fast you put a tourniquet on. A person that gets bit and it gets a full dose of the venom, which is both fangs, then it's going to spread pretty quickly if he doesn't have a tourniquet. Within a half hour, whatever's been bit, whether it's an arm or a finger, is really swollen, and the pain is long set in. So it does act quickly. But with the hospitals of today and the helicopters with the trauma centers, it's rare that people die from poisonous snake bites anymore.
Okay, let's move on down to the next display here. This one is a little bit more docile, if such a word could be.
Well, no, it's this one's pretty laid-back specimen. This is a Florida cottonmouth. We have the western cottonmouth in Illinois. They don't come any farther north than St. Louis, so we don't have them in our area. The cottonmouth is another snake that will hold its ground. When you find one of these in a swamp, such as in southern Illinois, they will not generally run away from you, so they can be a potentially dangerous snake. Most snakes in general will run from you as soon as you come up against them, so they're not going to be trying to bite. But these things will stand right there, and it's advisable to respect them. The Florida cottonmouth just has a few markings on the head that make it a different subspecies than the type we have in Illinois.
Excuse my ignorance, but I mean, is a cottonmouth more of a water snake than?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's our only poisonous water snake. The northern water snake we have around here is often killed as a cottonmouth. They're very different looking, but an adult northern water snake can tend to get darker colored. When they're younger, they have lots of blotching, but when they get older, they'll start to look a little bit more like a cottonmouth.
And these types of snakes wouldn't be seen in our immediate area,
right.
Correct?
Yeah, so north of St. Louis, they've never been found.
Now, do these venomous snakes bite only when they need to have food or when they're threatened?
Right. The main thing that the venom is used for is subduing prey. It is a real potent digestive juice is what it is. It'll stop a mouse or a fish or whatever in its tracks, and then the animal can safely eat it. They'll use it for defense if necessary.
Okay, now let's move on. We get, I think, 2 more snakes to go here. This one is quite long.
Yeah, this is a 4-foot speckled king snake. They get about 6 feet long. This is the type of snake that is actually immune to rattlesnake venom, and this one here could eat that eastern diamondback. That's why they call him a king snake. Speckled king snake lives in the southern part of Illinois also. This one is from Union County. I do have a scientific collector's permit, so I can legally catch and hold these animals.
Now, in my limited knowledge of snakes, I know that some can unhinge their jaws to eat their prey. Is that common in all snakes?
Yes, all snakes have that ability. They don't have any claws to rip apart prey. They don't have any teeth to cut prey, so they have to eat everything whole.
Okay. This one is indigenous to what area now?
Southern Illinois. This one was found in Union County, which is a relatively undeveloped area, so it's a good snake area.
Now, the reptiles we're seeing in this display as we move in this particular display here at the museum, are these all of the ones you're in your collection, or do you have others?
Quite a few more at home.
Okay. Why did you choose on these for this particular showing?
Well, Linda needed the Florida king snake for a demonstration. This Florida king snake here is a real mild-mannered snake, and it's our favorite for showing kids. If a kid wants to touch one, this is the one we use. It's never bitten anybody, never even attempted to bite anybody. Real gentle snake. It's a good feeder, so that's our main animal for human touching.
Okay, and of which I will not partake at this moment.
We don't force the snakes on anybody.
Okay.
We always make sure that if somebody comes touch the snake, it's definitely on their own free will. That's the quickest way to turn people off is to try to force something on them. We don't want to do that.
How does this snake survive without having that aggressive instinct?
Most of the non-poisonous snakes usually spend most of their time hiding. Even the poisonous snakes do too. That's a trait of snakes, is they stay out of danger. Some of them will sit and wait for days for prey to come by, and then they'll grab it and eat it. But that's their main defense mechanism, is staying secluded.
Last but certainly not least, we're going to take a look at the largest snake in the display, and this is a what?
Reticulated python. The reticulated python lives in Southeast Asia, and it holds the world's record for the heaviest and longest snake. The anaconda, which is a type of boa from South America, usually goes back and forth with a retic. They're both quite large snakes, but this one is by far the heaviest type of snake.
Okay, if we were to stretch this one out, how long would it be?
Between 12 and 14 feet.
And that's considered small?
Half size. That's half size. He's not even a teenager yet. They're an impressive snake.
Now, are these snakes venomous as well?
No, these are constrictors. They're very powerful constrictors. Zookeepers are more afraid of the giant snakes than they are the poisonous snakes. The poisonous snakes usually adapt to captivity, and if they don't bite you, you're all right. But the pythons can, when they do attack, they can kill you on the spot. The very large ones can. I'm talking a 25-footer. They do get dangerous. This one here is not to the dangerous point yet.
Now, do they know what particular parts of the body they attack, certain parts of the body, or once they grab a hold of you, they just work their way up, or what's the...
As far as their natural prey, birds and large mammals and that, they just grab them wherever they can, but then they throw a couple of loops around the midsection of the body so that they can prevent the animal from breathing. What they do is the animal will exhale, and the snake tightens its coils so the animal can't inhale again. So the actual death is by suffocation. Then the snake will usually take it by the head, take the animal by the head and eat it whole.
Ratio-wise, what kind of strength are we talking about compared to what?
Well, that's hard to say. Mm-hmm. They are a strong animal, but I'd say if one of the heaviest men in the world squeezed your arm as hard as he could, that's what a python can do to you.
Okay.
It's hard to think.
And obviously we won't find any of these, hopefully, in our backyard, right?
Well, in Florida, they find them occasionally under houses.
On their houses?
Under houses. There was one recently that was over 20 feet long that had been living in the area for quite a few years, had been eating dogs and raccoons. But this one is securely in the cage.
Okay. So please don't fear if you're coming down to see the display. These are all securely secured in these cages. I guess we should point out that these are all reptiles, but there are different species of reptiles, and we're looking at, this is a croc or an alligator?
This is a brown caiman, which is very similar to an alligator. They're from South America, mostly from the Amazon. This one is about 4.5 to 5 feet, though it is hard to measure him. And he's a little bit overweight, but we're gonna put him on a diet.
Speaking of feeding these particular animals, we've looked at the snakes and now we're looking at the caiman. What do you feed them?
Well, I just bought a whole bunch of frozen rats and mice, and this is the best way, the most efficient way to feed animals in zoos. All the zoos do it. They'll have a list of suppliers that any excess rats or mice they have in their programs, they'll send over to the zoo. And you can freeze them for up to 6 months without them losing the nutritional value.
So there's an actually frozen mouse salesman?
Yes, there is. And I advise not to microwave them.
Okay.
You just throw them overnight, and then after they're good and thawed out, you throw them in there. And most of the reptiles, the larger carnivorous ones, will just eat the dead stuff. They don't need the live ones in there. Live ones can pose a threat to a snake collection. If a snake isn't particularly hungry, and you leave the mouse in or a rat in overnight, the mouse or rat can damage the snake because the snake won't fight back.
Is it expensive feeding these particular animals?
No, that's another thing that drew me to the reptiles and amphibians, that they are pretty inexpensive to keep. They only eat, the larger ones especially, only eat once a week. This python could go for close to a month on a large rabbit. With mammals, you have to feed them every day. One elephant could cost you up to $15,000 a year just with food. So these are very economical animals to keep, and the larger ones especially, do have quite an impact on people. They're an impressive animal.
Well, this one is not exactly burning off a lot of pounds right now.
No, he's not.
Okay. We have plenty more of the exhibit at the Burpee Museum of Natural History, the live reptile exhibit. It'll be going on Tuesday through the entire summer, through August, and we'll be back to explain more and show you more when 413 continues right after this.